This is Julie Moore Wellness Consultancy. Julie Moore Wellness Consultancy in Molela, Theta in Juja in Kiambu in Central Province, Pieces in Kenya. Kenya is in East Africa in Africa. Welcome. Let's fight about this alcoholism and substance abuse in our country. Thank. The topic is malfunctions in the family system. Substance abuse can be seen as being both system maintained and system maintaining. Respective changes in family dynamics usually occur when substance abuse is introduced into the family. Once the family assimilates these changes and reorganizes around the substance abuse, these changes actually support the addictions or substance abuse. For example, if a 10-year-old child begins to watch of a 3-year-old sibling because their mother is high on crack, family function is preserved. If imperfectly, however, these assumptions of parental loss by the child also make it easier for the mother to continue with her crack use, causing a circular pattern of reinforcement. This is a mother who is taking either substance abuse or alcohol and leaving the responsibility of a child rearing to a small child of 10 years to look the small children's. This will give that mother a lot of time to go and look for substance abuse or alcohol. And remember, this child of 10 years is a school-going child. So most of the time, that child will be away from school. There is no one prototype of the substance abusing family. The function that alcohol or drug abuse serves for the family may vary, and the response of the family may serve to either isolate or magnify its effect. We can note, however, common stresses on the system of the family with a member who is a substance abuser that can and frequently do cause certain alterations of functioning and symptoms in the members. Families with an alcoholic or other substance abusing member experience high anxiety levels. It is stressful for anyone living close to an alcoholic. Other family members of an alcoholic must assume more of the household task and responsibility as the substance abuser assumes another functioning position in the family. Spouses are affected by the characteristics of their substance abusing partners, as well as the negative consequences of substance abusing behavior, e.g., financial problems, increased social isolations, and family conflicts. Also, it increased depressions, anxieties, and physical symptoms have been found in spouses of alcoholics. Because substantial differences appear between families in which a member abuses alcohol and those in which a member abuses another substance, Families dealing with alcohol and those dealing with other substances will be discussed separately. Alcoholic families. Okay, for alcoholic families, this is when only that member of the family is consuming only alcohol, but no other hard drugs like cocaine, heroin, etc. Let's see about alcoholic families. Children of alcoholics comprises one of the most prevalent high-task groups in this country for a wide variety of emotional and behavioral problems, frequently reflecting some of the dysfunctions of the home in which they are raised. 1986. Parental abuse and neglect is common in the homes of substance abusing adolescents. Furthermore, living in a home where substances are abused places children at the greater risk for sexual abuse, and children who experience sexual abuse are greater risk for substance abuse themselves. Researchers have found a significant proportions of these children also exhibit problems associated with prolonged stress, low self-esteem, external locus of control, conduct disorders, learning disabilities, repeated delinquencies, alcohol and drug use, and suicidal tendencies. Mostly in those alcoholic families, mostly the girls shout. Mostly they don't go up to a higher level of education. They just drop almost in primary schools. Other studies have found more socio and personal drinking related problem at an earlier age than do alcoholic having no history of alcoholism in the family. However, a growing number of researchers point out that not all children from alcoholic homes emerge with major problems and focus instead on those who survive. Finding protective factors and factors that create resiliency in children would be important in interrupting the intergenerational transmissions of alcoholism. Doweyko 203 names several factors that affect the impact of parental alcoholism on offspring. A. Gender of the substance abusing parent. Is he the father? Is he the mother? If it's a father, it's more, it's in a, if it's a mother, the children, they don't have parental care. As you know, mostly the mother is the one who used to be with the children. And mostly they don't have love. You, when that mother comes out from drinking, he will use he mostly he used to shout to these kids, to abuse, call them names, etc. Okay, for B, gender of the child. Mostly, boy's child is mostly affected when a parent is a drunkard. And mostly, a boy's child learns on drinking. Okay, length of time of active substance abuse. Suppose these parents start when a child is for 1 day years old. At the times the child least an age of 10 years, when the child will know him or herself, how will he or she be? Then D, family constellations and the body position of the child. Remember, if it's the first child, if we come to the body position of the child, the first child, if the parents are drunkard, especially the mother, that child will take responsibilities of the other siblings who were younger than him. So mostly will be have no time to do studies, to do homeworks, because that times we can do those things is the time we was cooking for the childrens. That is that is the family constellation and body position of the child. So the first child will be mostly affected, especially when he is a girl child. Then we come to E. Whether the child has a surrogate parent that assumes some of the parental role of the alcoholic parent. Okay, if the child of those alcoholic parents might be they have a house help in the house, mostly they will be not affected, since most of the works will be done by the surrogate parents. Factors that increase resilience in children are discussed later in this chapter. Hope we will use there. When a family attempts to reorganize itself in the face of prolonged crisis, such as the alcoholism, changes in laws, rules, and boundaries of the family occur in an effort to stabilize the system. Behavior of family members within the dysfunctional system, observed from the outside, can appear strange or abnormal, while when viewed within the context of the dysfunctional family, they can be seen as being adaptive or an integral part of maintenance of family homeostasis. In other words, dysfunctional behavior can actually be an attempt to preserve the family system. When we come to structural characteristic of alcoholic families, we have the boundaries, one of the features that allows the family to identify itself and to be identified by others is its external boundaries. Families with a healthy boundaries are well defined, yet flexible enough to allow for appropriate exit of family members. Alcoholic families tend to have overly rigid boundaries, restricting contacts with others outside the system. The family uses secrecy to protect the family from shame and concealment of the problem, and silence protect the alcoholic from outsiders. However, secrecy also makes the family structure rigid and unable to cope with change. Okay, we came to our coalitions. The family also has internal boundaries. One of the functions of the family is delegation of power, usually along generational lines, forming a hierarchy in which the parents hold the most power. Boundaries normally exist between generational, with the parents clearly separate from the children in terms of rules, laws, and power, and in charge of caretaking of young children. In the couples who abuse substance, these coalitions between parents may become maintained or damaged. Hierarchical reversal in the family, in which mothers and children are placed on lateral positions of power, may be found. These intergenerational coalitions, either higher or lower than the alcoholic father in terms of power, suggest that children are enlisted into hierarchically inappropriate caretaking positions in alcoholic families, most often with the non non-alcoholic spouse. This blurring of the generational boundaries frequently result in the child being placed in the position of parenting. The parents omitting intimacy needs that are inappropriate in the parent-child relationship. When we come to laws within the family are delegated by the family, and interactions among family members and between the family and the larger social structure are monitored and regulated by the family. Thus, problem of any family member change the dynamic and interactions both within the family and with the larger community in social structure. We come to case discussions like case 2, Joe and Jane. Alcohol and cocaine are seen to regulate interactions. Sarah distracts both her mothers and Joe's drug and alcohol abuse by calling attention to her acting out behavior. Karen attempts to stabilize the home by staying out of the way and being quiet. In several early authors described laws that are commonly assumed by children living in alcoholic homes. These laws are frequently present in many dysfunctional families of four types. This anecdotal based theory has not yet been substantiated in research, but its general concepts are frequently used to trust family members of recovering alcoholic. For detailed descriptions, a home with inconsistent and confusing parental messages and expectations can be fertile ground for the development of dysfunctional personal attributes. Conflicting expectations create situations in which the child cannot succeed. Case discussion, case 1, Sadie and Pam. In her sporadic and unsuccessful attempt to become alcohol and drug free, Pam is ambiguous about the value of not abusing alcohol and drugs. Sadie has no wonder whether her mother would approve more of her drinking as she had most of her life, or abstaining as her mother sporadically attempts to do. Case 3, Leigh. Leigh feels caught in the middle of conflict between her parents. She interprets their being too busy for her as not being wanted by them. Attributes that are frequently reported in studies of adult children of alcoholics are low self-esteem, lack of trust, shame, and no real sense of self, which puts the adult child of an alcoholic parent at risk for alcoholism and other emotional dysfunctions. Researchers disagree as to whether growing up in a home where there is alcoholism or other substance abuse causes the children growing up there to abuse alcohol or other substances. Children of alcoholic have an increased risk for alcoholism, but alcoholism is not the inevitable result of growing up with an alcoholic parent. Growing beliefs suggest that the emotional disturbances found in adult children of alcoholic are not caused specifically by the presence of alcohol in the family, but the presence of any family dysfunctions. In other words, children from dysfunctional homes, regardless of cause, share some common characteristics as a result of the disruption within the family. That was about alcoholic, but now we will go to substance abusing family. Those substance abusing family, no, if we come to substance abuse, we don't talk about alcohol. These are hard drugs: cocaine, heroin, opioid, hallucinogens. All those are in this group. Substance abusing family. Substance abuse typically begins in adolescence when tendency towards risk-taking behaviors occur and movement towards independence increases reliance on the peer group. Shows a quest for independence and separation for the family is appropriate for an adolescent stage of psychosocial development. As in other stages of transition in family life, the stages of one family member precipitate an imbalance in the family system, thereby initiating reciprocal allowances of some independence by the parents. Ideally, the parents will find a balance between maintaining complete authority over the adolescents and abdicating authority altogether. Most substance abusers are enmeshed, that is, closely tied in the families that raised them, have found that adult addicts and substance abusers are much more likely to live with their parents than their non-abusing cohorts. Differentiations of the child during adolescence causes a crisis in the enmeshed family, and an interactive pattern involving drugs may occur. Rebelling against inappropriately rigid family boundaries, the adolescents may experiment with drugs, which in turn unites the family in attempt to help the drug users. Clinicians have noted, however, that when the substance abuser stops using, a familiar case is often elapsed, such as marital problem or the acting out of a sibling. This brings the former substance abuser, finally capable of leaving home, back into the nest where the drug abuse is resumed. Thus, the substance abuse provides a dependency in the user that maintains the rigid family boundaries and preserves the enmeshed balance of the family, and the substance abuser becomes the symptoms bearer for the family. The addict, in effect, provides the family with the solution of the individuations, a paradoxical resolution to their dilemma of maintaining or dissolving the family by seeming to be dependent, but in reality remaining dependent on the family to meet the addicts and their family's needs. Case discussion, case 2, Joe and Jane. Sarah is reflecting the replication of the abuse and conflicted homes of her mother and stepmother and is making movement to leave home at an early age. The family is an immense, typical of substance abusing families. How can these successfully individuate from her family? In case 3, Lee's rebellion served to distract her mother and father